So this is carrying on from the balloon inflation video that I did a few days back, because Balloon has now got a Vertex Map area added to it in 2023.2, which is great. I mean, I've been using it for lots of experiments, and yeah, I just wanted to do this one today. So this is using the Balloon and Vertex Maps and linear fields and good stuff like that, and it's doing a transition that you've just seen in the video. It's doing a transition from like an overinflated kind of shape, whatever you want to call it. Let's just go back to here and I'll just quickly show you what's happening. Look, so this has been cached, but it's going between two states. So you kind of morph in between something that's very kind of billowy and organic looking and quite quite awful looking, really, isn't it? Into something like forged out of a piece of lovely molten metal, and just the way that it transitions into that by using this map and linear fields, and the way the textures can be just gradually brought in. Yeah, it's a nice effect. I've been using it for a few things. I've got some more ideas as well, but I'm just going to show you today how you get this effect. So let's start, like we always do, with a new scene. Okay, let's use the logo again. Let's just grab that Apple logo and just drop it. I mean, you can obviously use whatever you want. So let's go to here, this way. So I've got an AI file. I'm going to include this scene file, all the textures, lighting, and the AI file for the Apple, everything, for a couple of dollars down below. If you want to download this scene file, it will be available for you. So anyway, let's just import this scene. Right, so I've actually got a spline here, and it's actually got a bite piece in there as well, because I was thinking of other ideas I could do with this, where the bite gets taken out. So that's for another day. But if let's just take that piece out now, and let's just combine these splines together. So we want to connect and delete, and then take those outside of the null, and then just delete the null. So we just want a spline, which is the Apple logo. That's it. All right, now we need to extrude this. So if you click on it and then do this one here, the top one, don't know what you call it, but click on that and then hold down Alt and extrude, and then we'll get this crazy extrude going on here. Look, far too big. So let's drop this back to something quite nice, somewhere there. Right, now the problem we're going to have here is this will not inflate and make a nice job like you see in here, because this one has got, if you can see that clearly, probably can at the end, look, it's got this mesh, a really tight mesh all around it. And if you look at this one, if we go to ground shading with lines, there's no mesh, there's no geometry, it's awful. We need it all on here. So what's the best way of doing that? There's a few tools here where you can do that with, but there's only one way that really works. So I'll just show you the way that doesn't work, just so you don't fall into this trap. We've got this remesher here, and I think a lot of people use this and just drop objects into it, because it does kind of do a job of remeshing if you put more mesh density in, but it kind of never kind of works for me doing it this way. You could probably use it like that, but it's, for me it needs a little bit more smoothing. We've got 1,000 on here now, it just doesn't seem right. So what we do, rather than go straight to the remesh, let's just delete that, we go for volume builders and modelers, sorry, meshers and builders. So we go for a mesher, then we go for the builder, put the builder under the mesher as a child, and then we'll put the extrude group now under the builder. Now we'll just wait and see what happens. Not a lot, because the builder is voxel size 10, and we need to bring that down to like 0.5, and the mesher, I believe that's sort of middle, which is about right there. Okay, and now we can bring in the remesh. So we do it in this order. So bring in the remesh, and then we drop all of this as a child under the remesh. Just wait for a little while that calculates. Shouldn't be too long. There we go. So it's an even geometry across the whole thing now. You know, there's a few little bits there, but they're not really going to affect anything in this simulation. So that's the kind of thing we want. A nice mesh about that density, just to allow this inflation and all of the simulation cloth things to start to look right. You know, if you've got too little, it won't look right. So that's about the density you're after. Okay, so what we can do now, we can make a copy of that remesh, and we can turn off the original, and then the new one we can right click and connect objects and delete. Okay, so just turn that off completely, the other one. And then this one, let's just call it Apple. Okay, so now let's start adding the cloth dynamics to this and start to build this scene. All right, so we right click, we go to simulation tags, cloth, and let's just have a look under surface. Right, so we want more bendiness, so let's go like 55. We want about 5 in the stretchiness, a little bit of stretch in there. Target length we want to increase because we want the gaps between the mesh here, the geometry, to increase, to make it look a lot more creased at the beginning. So we want to add about 140 in the target length. Balloon, let's switch that on. Let's go about 3 pressure inflation, and let's go mix animation, and let's control that with a 4 so we don't have it moving around. Anyway, so what we're going to do now we've got those, we're going to control this with a vertex map in all these areas. So what we do is we right click on Apple, and we go to other tags, vertex map. So it goes red. Now when it's red, it's inactive, nothing will work. When it goes yellow, that's when the things work. So with the vertex map there, we go back to the cloth tag, go to surface, and where all these things here that say map underneath all these ones we've just added numbers to, we want to drop this in. Okay, so we just drop it in all these places, which are all going to reference the map. Go to balloon, drop it in there, and then go to mix animation and drop it in there. Okay, now we need to control this vertex map. At the moment nothing's happening, it doesn't do anything, but we need to use fields, and then we can make this work. So if you check use fields, delete freeze, and then we're going to bring in a linear field. Okay, let's just zoom out and I'll show you. It's a little bit too far apart, so the length between them wants to be somewhere about 5 or 7. Let's just try 7. So if we now go to linear field, and let's just go a little bit closer so I can show you what's happening. There we go, look. So if we pass this across, we're going from non-active, which is red, go across the object, and then yellow, which is active. Right, so if we start this side, let's just have a look first before we start activating this. Let's make sure we don't have any gravity on. So you go Control D, project settings, go to scene, and we turn it off. I've obviously turned it off in the version before because normally that is -981, but you want to zero that out to 0 there. And we also, just before we press play and try this, we want to add a bit of turbulence into this. Okay, not much, not very strong. I think if we just go 10 and 5 to start with, just to add a little bit, and then we want to control the field on the turbulence with the linear field we have here. So if you click on fields, we can drop that linear field into there, so it will use the same one to turn off the turbulence as it moves across. Right, I think we are ready. If we grab the linear field and we press play, and then if we move this across, we should start to get things happen, which they are quite nicely, look. Okay, so that's what it's doing, is it's adding at this point all of these effects that we've just looked at here. So the bendiness, the 55, that's now operating because it's got the vertex map tag here under map. So it's now looking at that, because if we look on there, it should all be yellow, which means it's all active. The stretchiness is operating. The target length is 140%, which means it's 40% more materials gone into here, which is why it's baggy. It's also inflated it 3, so it's got bigger using the vertex map. And the mix animation. Oh, actually, we've got the wrong tag in there, haven't we? We've got cloth. We should have vertex map. So let's just try that again. It wasn't looking too bad actually like that. We might not have to use a vertex map on this part, but let's just try it with. We need to press play before we do it. Okay, so it comes across there. I think the reason we've used a vertex map here is we want the turbulence to come into play at this point to move things around more. That's why we've done that. We've released it from being pinned down with force to now saying it's no longer pinned down, it's acting as full cloth, and the turbulence is now having an effect on it. Okay, so that if we bring up the turbulence a lot, so that you'll see what's happening. You know, the whole thing is now not pinned by any kind of forces, it's just using, you know, it's not having any effect on it, it's just the turbulence can have full effect on the item now. So that's why we did that. So I think that's good. Now the thing that's different between this one and the one you saw at the beginning, the video that I made, is we've reversed the linear field. At the moment we're on +x and it's facing towards the right, but if we go to -x it will face towards the left. And if we bring it across now, if I show you, we've now got it. So if we just swap those over, you see that we'll go from switched off to switched on just by changing the plus or minus on the X. So what that means now is we can bring it across from right to left, and the effect will be on at the beginning, and then it will return to its normal state at the end, which is what I did on my video. So if we just try it that way now, all the effects will come on now, look. So it'll be spinning around with turbulence. All the effects are on until we move until we move the linear field slowly across the object here, look. And what it will do is it will gradually turn off all of these effects and return it to its original state without anything affecting it. Okay, so then as it comes across here, look, you have to go slowly with this. You don't want to have this thing race across it, because it will get, all the geometry will get a bit messed up. There's a little bit's got caught there. If it does, go to Control D, go to project settings, and I've already increased these a bit, but you could just want to play around with some of these just to increase some of these. Maybe take that off, see what we get now. Velocity clamp off, try that. Damping, smooth it a little bit more, maybe a few more iterations. You get a fine balance between these. You just have to play around with these settings until you get something that really works. Right, so let's keyframe this now. Let's put the linear field back across so it's just clear. Let's set a keyframe at frame 0. Let's move it forward, say, to 100 frames, and then let's come across the whole thing until it's just past it, and then keyframe it there. Let's see what we get now. Okay, so the effect is full on at the beginning, and then as the linear field passes across the object, it basically turns off all of the animation settings that we had basically. So it's returning it back to its original state, and I love that. I love the way the little leaf there just slowly returns back to the beginning. It's a really nice effect. So that's the first stage to get that animation to feel right at this point. And then when we're happy with that, we want to have a color. We want to have a material that changes from one material to another. So the way we do that, let's go to the asset browser and let's just grab a couple of metal materials. So let's go for metal, go to materials, let's have, I don't know, let's have a silver, and let's have a tarnished silver. Should we go for something like, or should we go for the rust? I can go gold and silver, couldn't we? Or yeah, let's just try a tarnish. Yeah, let's try brass tarnish. I mean, you can try anything, any combination works. Right, so we're going to go from one to the other. So we're going to put silver on the apple like that. And then the other one, we need to make some changes to this so we can make it work using the vertex map. So what we do, we click on it and we want to add an alpha channel. So check alpha channel, go to alpha channel, and then we click on this little arrow. We go to effects, and then we go right down to the bottom there where it says vertex map. If we click on vertex map, it's asking for a map, and we've already got one here, look, so we can drop that into there. So that's basically going to say there's an alpha channel which is transparent apart from the vertex map part. Okay, so the rest of it will be transparent and not active at all. It won't be there, but the vertex map will be. Right, so if we drop that onto the scene, and then let's just see what we get now as it passes across. Oh, actually that's not worked, because we need, probably have to invert. Let's just try coming across here. Let's turn on the vertex. Right, so we're getting the color coming across here. And let's just have a look at how, I don't think that's quite, yeah, I think it is. Yeah, I think, right, let's get some lights in the scene. I think that's going to help. Right, so I use HDRI lighting. So just type in HDRI in the asset browser. Well, delete what's there first, that always helps. And then just look for anything really. Any one of these will look great. So here's one in the park. Let's just drag that into here. And then if we put that onto the sky, and then, excuse me, drag that onto the sky, and then we go to render tags, compositing, and turn off scene by camera. Okay, so it's only going to be shown inside the material now. So let's see what we've got now. Well, we've actually got that the wrong way round, haven't we? We want it to start. We want it to start with the brass. Right, let's try turning that round the other way. I'm sorry about this. I don't know why it's doing this at the moment. Let's just. Actually, I think we want to put these on as cubic as well, and then we want to pin. We want to pin the texture on. So we go to Apple, go to right click, we go to material tags and pin material. So basically we'll pin this material, sorry, it will basically pin the material onto the object, so when it moves around it'll be stuck in place. Right, so let's see if we've got, let's put the vertex map on just to see when this starts to come in. Look, because I want to see if this material is changing. It should change. Just give that, there we go. Yeah, so now that's the right way around. We've actually got, it's starting with the brass kind of damaged look, and then it's bringing in this nice molten clear, like almost mercury liquidy look to the end of it. Now we can add a little bit more randomness to the way it comes on just by, if we go to the vertex map, we can search here for a random field, and on blending type we can say overlay, and then we can just play around here, look, with the scale of the noise until we get this kind of random pattern. Yeah, and we can kind of push this around until we get, and that will basically, it will just change the look of the edge. Let's just do a little render and see if it looks right. It will basically just break up the edge, so this metal will come on a little bit more random than being a perfect straight line. Okay, so let's just let that play out and see. Here it's resolving nicely now, look. So if we just take a render there, you'll see that we've got this transition happening, and we've got the old bit just disappearing off the end as the linear field passes over it, and then it just lovely resolves towards the end there, look, back into its molten, well, it's actually silver. It's got this scratched silver. It's quite nice, isn't it? So that's it really. that's exactly how you do it. And what I did for mine is I inflated it up here, and I started the scene, the render, about 30 frames in, you know, when it didn't look like the apple, you know, when it had kind of inflated and gone into a different shape. And then I let it render from that point to the end, you know, so then you start to get it settled down into this shape. So I hope that gives you some ideas. There's lots you can do with this, you know, lots of different objects you can use. So you've got your object that you want it to finish with, and then you make sure that the geometry on it is nice and even, and then you can inflate it, you can add target length, you can add ballooning and all sorts of stuff to it to make it look very different. Get your textures to work on an alpha channel, so whichever ones you grab from the asset browser, make sure you add an alpha channel and go to texture, effects, vertex map, and then you can drop in your vertex map into there, and then drop both materials on to your logo on this main file, this main one here, look, and then it will use one as an overlay alpha channel onto the other color. Right, so that's how you get that two-tone effect. So it's very, very good. You can use it in lots of ways. I've spoke too much. I'm going to go now. I hope you enjoy the video. Please give me a like or a subscribe and some comments. That would be much appreciated, and I will see you very soon in the next video. My name is Mike German from Visual Animation. Take care. Goodbye for now.